Bonuses are there to be given when you are profitable. If you are not profitable, then to try to give extra money that is not there is just going to put you further in a hole.
Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. This is your one-stop shop to learn the business side of your practice on a deeper level. On this show, we empower you to own your CEO status to scale your practice for growth, sustainability, and profit. Listen in as we talk about how to market your practice to gain more visibility, hire, build, and engage your ride or die dream team, create streamlined operations, and make financial decisions as a CEO. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Let's get started.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. And today is a good one. It's a juicy one. And it's if you are in a place of getting ready for the holidays and thinking about how can I bonus out my team because they did so well, then this episode is for you. Or if you are in a place of I want to implement a bonus structure inside of my practice, whether it's this year or next year, then this is going to be a really great episode for you. Tip number one. And because we have the fancy tools of ChatGPT and AI, go ahead. I'm going to give you some prompts today to make your life easier because some people try to create like the whole wheel and you don't need to. So I'm going to say ChatGPT can definitely write you up an amazing bonus structure for you and your team. But there are some things that you need to do before you incorporate ChatGPT. And sometimes ChatGPT will write something great and it's not the correct thing to do. So you also need to involve your accountant in this exercise as well. So those are my disclaimers before I even get started. So let's talk about some benefits when it comes to your practice having a bonus structure. A lot of times when you hire and you are especially evolving as the business is growing, you're evolving as a business owner, you're getting to a place maybe you're hiring, whether you have a big team or a smaller team, taking on that additional expense or investment, I'll say, of a team member can sometimes feel a little bit heavy, right? And so especially payroll, there is always what market is going to pay for a job. Depending on where you're at, the region of where you're listening to this is going to dictate that. But sometimes you can't necessarily give people the top of the range when it comes to what the market is saying that a certain position needs to be paid for. This happens with providers. This can happen with clinical teams. This can happen with admin teams. It doesn't matter. There's certain positions require a certain amount of payment. And there's usually some type of pay range that comes with that. This is both for 1099 and W-2. So what do you do when you're in a place of, I really want to hire this team member, but they're either asking for more money than I can afford, or I'm not really comfortable stepping out on this ledge. I could maybe pay it. I could make it work, but it feels a little bit heavy. What do? This is where a nice bonus structure comes into play. I'll say every provider that I've ever worked with, over 2 decades worth, and there's been a lot, and every single specialty has always had some type of bonus structure with their compensation model. Depending on your compensation model, this is why I strongly recommend for you to work with your accountant, because more times than not, people implement the wrong provider compensation model inside of their practice. There's usually like some type of split that isn't appropriate, or people start to feel a little bit too heart-centered, and so they give away all the percentages. And then they're like, oh, I can't afford to pay myself. Well, no, you can't afford to pay yourself because you gave away way too much. The other part of this is that hourly, they will give them like $50 million an hour, not really $50 million an hour, but they'll put that hourly rate so high that there's no room for growth. So if this person is doing a really great job and they come to you and say, hey, when's my evaluation? You're not able to give them maybe a raise with that evaluation. So again, this is why I like bonuses. This is why I like being able to have some type of buffer. The other caveat to this is your practice has to be in a position first to be profitable. If you are speaking or if you were trying to implement bonuses and you were struggling financially, please stop. Like if you are barely making payroll and you're not too sure and you're gritting your teeth from one payroll to the next, please don't do this. Like bonuses are there to be given when you are profitable. If you are not profitable, then to try to give extra money that is not there is just going to put you further in a hole. So making sure that you're setting yourself up for success of knowing your numbers, speaking with your accountant and seeing what makes sense. And then again, if you are like, I don't know how to write a bonus structure model, then this is where ChatGPT can definitely help you. So let's talk about holidays. All right. So you have a team. We're going to speak from a team that is a high performance team. Please don't, because some of what I already know what's going to happen. Well, my whole team, and I feel bad because my low performers who make my life harder, what if they don't get a bonus? That's okay. They need to see that they don't get a bonus. Your high performers who have made your life easier and who have gone above and beyond deserve to have a bonus. So this is if you don't have any kind of bonus structure in place. So we'll start there first. So you can start the implementation bonus, like you can start the bonus structure implementation anytime you want to. Again, it's bigger, it's harder to do in maybe like a corporate setting or maybe a bigger practice. But if as a business owner, you have that right. So if you wanted to write a check tomorrow, you could write a check tomorrow and it would be fine. The structure piece of it is to decide what is your bonus structure being dictated on. When you are implementing a bonus structure, is it just going to be a gift? So for holidays, hey, the team did a really, really great job. I'm so thankful. So everybody gets $500. That's like a bonus at like its most basic, foundational, like at its core is I'm just going to give you a pot of money and say thank you, right? So this is where what's coming to me is Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. And, he's like a first Christmas bonus, like his check, and it's what he gets every single year. And so that's a bonus, right? And so that's like at basic, like baseline. When you start to get more sophisticated with your bonus structure, this means that you now have performance goals. You've dedicated a pot of money that teams can have access to if they do well. This is where ChatGPT can definitely help you write out like what that structure can be, what performance goals would be. So here's a prompt. What is a great bonus structure for an office manager who has financial oversight? And it will map out exactly what that financial or exactly what that office manager is responsible for. If you don't have an office manager, I'll tell you operations, day-to-day, team leadership, financial performance, making sure that policy and procedures, things are streamlined, efficient. A lot of what a CEO is overseeing is put on an office manager to make sure, again, that the practice is flowing and is well oiled. When you start to map this out from a bonus structure perspective, then you could decide, okay, this office manager is going to have an opportunity to earn $12,000 more on top of their baseline like salary or whatever they make hourly. So if it's $12,000 pot, they have 5 goals, performance goals that they have to hit. Then you would split up that $12,000 across those goals. Now, each goal, and this is where ChatGPT is really helpful, each goal could have a different weight. So, for example, financial performance. So, if we're looking at profitability, like financial performance would be that the practice has to have at least 10% profit for them to get this bonus. It could be 20% of the bonus. So, if the pot is $12,000, then they get 20% of that $12,000. As you can see, I'm sitting in a chair with a microphone. I don't have a calculator, but you can do the math, or maybe you can't see, but just to, for those of you listening, I'm sitting in a chair with a microphone in front of my face, but you can grab a calculator, you can do the math. What's 20% of 12,000? And that would be part of the bonus that they would receive. And so you go down the line. There are some like goals that are very like basic where maybe they get 5% of the 12,000 that they could hit. And usually with bonus structures, there's usually some easy goals that they can hit that they'll guarantee because you don't want to put a person where, oh, I have this bonus. It's a fake bonus. It's like fake news. I'm never going to get it. They've set it up where these goals are so outstanding or just so hard, I'll never get this pot of money. So you always want to make sure that the goals are in a place of stretching the person, but also making sure that they are able to get some money and it's not like an all or nothing scenario. But with provider bonus models, it's usually based on the amount of visit that they see. If they are doing really well, productivity's high, they're always hitting their quotas and their metrics when it comes to visits or appointments or sessions. Then if they're doing well, then you could have a bonus structure based on certain ranges. So if they're supposed to see 28 patients in a day, just to throw something out there, or maybe 28 patients in a week, then and they hit that, if they end up with going above and beyond, so if they are now seeing 30 patients in a week, then between 28 and 30 is an opportunity for them to bonus, right? So from a compensation model. Another way to do this is if they are hitting baseline. So if you know break even for a provider is $380,000 for break even, their salary is $380,000, they now can get a portion of their bonus of revenue between $380,000 and maybe $500,000 of revenue that would be generated. So between $380,000 to $500,000, that space in between, you could bonus them out 5% of that if you would like to. That's another way that you could do a bonus model. So again, this can get a little bit complex. So making sure that you're involving your accountant, but as you can see, it's based on the money that's coming in the door, how like a break even when it comes to the provider. You're not overpaying the provider. The provider is incentivized to bring in more money, and you are able to give them a pot of the work that they are doing, right? And so that's when it's a win-win. Now, if you are saying, if you're in the seat of, I've hired a provider and I need all $500,000 that's coming in that door, then I'm not going to tell you to bonus them out because you're not really in a place to give away that money or to pay out that money, even though they've helped you generate it, but you can be prepared for it. So of that $500,000 that comes in, taking a portion of that money and putting it to the side, maybe preparing for next year, or forecasting, working again with your accountant, forecasting for what bonuses you want to have available for the following year. So that's, again, more complicated. So those are two great examples from an office manager perspective and then from a provider perspective. So let me talk to you too about a little bit who normally gets bonuses within a practice. Your admin teams, like the people who are maybe scheduling or picking up the phone or from like MAs, medical assistants, billers, they normally don't get bonuses. If you're giving them bonuses, it's more or less like an incentive. It's an incentive to do the work that they're doing or when they hit their goals outside of maybe their normal increases. So this is where like a Christmas bonus is great because if you give them a $500 Christmas bonus because the year's gone well, that definitely will land well with your scheduling team, your front desk team, your clinical teams, your billing teams, all of those things. Your leadership are the ones who have access to bigger dollars. And the reason why is because your leadership is the one who's taking on a brunt of filtering some of the things that are happening in the practice, taking on a higher risk, making sure that the practice is in a place to be profitable, is doing financially well, making sure that things are well oiled, handling patient complaints. Like all of that starts to weigh. And so a bonus is a great way for them to have something to look forward to. Like I know in my career, I loved bonuses. Like give me a bonus any day of the week. I am motivated by money. Some folks are not motivated by money. And so you need to make sure that you're taking that into consideration and what does motivate them and when it comes to bonuses. But before I dive into that, the other part of that is the providers. Most times providers are bonuses. So when we're thinking about higher dollar bonuses, it would be your leadership team and your providers. Now let's talk about the motivations, like the motivators. So what do you do when you have a team member, whether if it's a provider or a leadership team or even just one of the admin or clinical team members who's not motivated by money, but there's this pot of money that's hanging out there for them to go after. This is where knowing your team and understanding what makes them tick is important. So if you have folks who are more motivated by PTO or maybe just a thank you or who likes spa days, or let's bring in lunch, or I'd love to go out for a good meal, with my husband and you want to give them a gift card, guess what? You're still going to incentivize them to do according to their love language in order for them to hit their performance goals and still get the pot of money that's hanging out there for them to get, right? So for them, the money's just a bonus on top of it. But they're not going to be motivated by it compared to some folks like me, where I'm working all year long to get that money. And so even though there's other ways that I was recognized in my career, a lot of different ways I was recognized in my career, I was a fixer. I still love the bonuses that I had access to, and that was one of my biggest drivers, right? And so understanding your team and understanding what actually gets them to move and to achieve their goals and the conversations that you need to have, like that's a deeper message that needs to be had, because just because you implement this bonus structure or just because you do some type of profit sharing means nothing. Truly, if it's not going to motivate them to hit their goals and to actually make your life easier by being a member of your team. What are some decent amounts for bonuses? Like, what's the low tier? What's the high tier? And I can speak to you from what my experience is. So, a low tier, like I've bonused out like $125. I remember, and I'll dive into like cadences of bonuses as well, but I remember the team had an opportunity. We were struggling with quality. So we created all these quality metrics and a quality incentive. So every single month, the team had an opportunity, and this was for admin team and clinical team. So it wasn't for leadership or it wasn't for like providers, but for those folks, it was $125 a month. And when we introduced it, you would have thought that it was like $525 a month or $2,000 a month. They were so excited, but it was $125 a month. And so there's no amount. Again, it's more or less what makes them happy and what makes your team members tick and what's going to motivate them. So that was $125. But over the course of months and quarters, that money started to add up. So it was a bigger month. It was a bigger pot of money collectively, but monthly, it was $125. So that's an easy bonus to implement. And then there was the metrics that they had to perform on in order to get access to that money. When we're talking about your bigger dollars, then usually that's always with your leadership. So as much as like from provider wise, it's higher. I've seen 48,000, 50,000, 60,000 dollars when it comes to bonuses, but these are, remember, I've worked in a lot of different specialties. And then for leadership 12,000. I'm saying 12,000, but that's a real number. 12,000, 14,000, 15,000, 25,000. So it just depends on the caliber of the position. But going back to that profitability piece, what is the profit that's coming into the practice? What's the revenue level? So if you are at barely seven figures, I'm not going to tell you to bonus out your providers $60,000, right? Or to pay your office manager a $25,000 bonus. Like you don't start there. What I would say is based on the revenue that's coming in, the profit that's there, or if you need to beef up your payroll, then where can you start? Because even if you do $1,000, $2,000, $2,500, like that's still impactful and that still makes a difference. From a provider perspective, again, it goes back to they'll pay for themselves and then what's the surplus, and giving them, if you can't do 5%, can you do 2%? If you can do 5%, 5% feels good, then okay, what about 10%, right? I don't recommend going above any of like past 25% is what I'll say. Some of the cadences that you can do this on, like you've heard me say monthly, I will never recommend for anybody to do anything monthly. Like that experience was awful because every month we were having to reconcile like metrics and look at performance, and there were multiple locations for this practice. We had 21 locations. So imagine trying to do 21 locations when the team members that are connected with that for $125. And we had to go through 5 metrics, 6 metrics, 7 metrics sometimes, like just to see if what the performance was. I don't recommend it. For a good cadence, it would be a 90-day, so a quarterly bonus or a yearly bonus. Those are the only cadences that I will ever recommend for you to do. Or if it's at a very special time of year. So like the holidays, like a Christmas bonus would be, or a holiday bonus would be good. Like outside of that, it would be the quarterly bonuses or the yearly bonus. So when we're thinking about what does this look like in real life, your salary or your hourly pay rate that you're giving your team is their paychecks, right? So that's just standardized payroll. When you start to implement bonuses, there is some behind the scenes that happens from of it being categorized differently. Like whether if you were in like your what ADP or your payroll system or Gusto, your paycheck will show your salary or your hourly rates, and then you'll have a section for a bonus. Your bonus is also too for team members who, if you've implemented this, your bonuses still get taxed. So even if you are implementing the holiday bonus, it's still going to be taxed. And sometimes people aren't prepared for that. So if you give someone five and you need it, and we're having this conversation because you need to think about, do I want to do $650? So that way the person isn't getting this bonus. Because I've had team members where we've bonused them out and they're mad 'cause it's like, well, it's what's $500, but I got taxed and now I only took home $250, and I'm mad about that. That's not worth it to me. So you might need to maybe beef it up. So maybe it's $550, so that way they're at least getting maybe $450. So those are just some of the things that's coming up for me for some things to think about as you're implementing a bonus structure. So here are your Chat GPT prompts. So get a notebook. Create a bonus structure for insert specialty private practice that will reward team members that work in the billing department. And it'll write it out for you. ChatGPT, create a bonus structure for an office manager of a private practice with X specialty that has financial oversight. ChatGPT, create a bonus structure for a provider who sees 25 patients per day in X specialty. Or ChatGPT, create a bonus structure for a provider that sees 25 sessions per week and is wanting a portion of the profit at $50,000 per year. Something like that. Like, so these are props. That was one on the fly, but you can get the cadence of it. So again, anytime I'm using Chat GPT, so here's some tools because we haven't really done like a whole Chat GPT or AI episode, but it's an amazing tool. And so the way that you can use it is you can use it to write out a full blown bonus structure, but knowing private practice, using terms private practice, healthcare, your specific specialty, and what do you want it to do, right? And so when you put those things as part of your prompts, whether if it's marketing or financial or team for performance or dashboards, when you put in those prompts, it starts to create for you. And so when we're talking about the bonus structure, it will outline every single bonus or performance goal that there is. Or if you just put in the prompt of ChatGPT, show me 3 different bonus structures for a provider who works in this type of specialty in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it will map out 3 different practice like compensation models for you or 3 different bonus structures for you. The caveat to this is that ChatGPT does not know all. You need to make sure that you're working with an expert. And even though I use it every day, I'm always consistently use it. I also know when it's spitting out some garbage and I need to delete things too, because I've been in the field, because I know the industry, and because I've seen a lot. So when you're doing this, I do recommend for you to still, like, you can use it as a baseline, work with your accountant. If there's certain contracts that are in place, making sure that you're talking to your lawyer. Don't just use ChatGPT as the truth. But here's some prompts for you too, just to help set you up for success. I hope that you really liked this episode and that you got some good information from it. Of course, if you need some additional help, there is Private Practice CEO that is available to you, where if you are struggling with the business side of your practice, then I would love for you to go ahead and apply. There's amazing conversations that happen in there with advanced private practice owners who are hiring team members, who are showing up as an empowered leader, who is owning their CO status, who are making amazing financial decisions, and who are implementing bonus structures every day. So go ahead and apply if you need some additional support. All right. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.